Yes.
I'm just messing with
Okay. All right, guys, so let's start off here. If you don't have it, I have it up here. We are projected up here, and you can fill this in later if you need, because you can use the review sheet on the test. So, looking at this here, are there any questions on problems 1 through 4? Naming 3 points, naming 2 lines, naming plane D in 2 ways, or naming plane B in 2 ways? Yes, sir. Questions on 1 through 4. Any questions on 1 through 4?
Name 3 points.
So are we good with naming 3 points, naming 2 lines? So if we name a line, we need how many letters? 2. And it needs what? A line over the top of them. If we're naming a plane, we need how many points? And they cannot be what?
On the same line.
So on the same line. So plane D is right here. So we can say plane MNP or PMN or NPM. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Hey.
No. Have you run copies before?
No.
So you'll throw that in the top. 1013 will get you in, where it says copy, 1 side to 2 side, options, staple.
Okay.
And run 10 copies off. All right, guys. So questions on 1 through 4. Naming 3 points, naming 2 lines, naming a plane. Are we good with 1 through 4?
Yeah.
Okay. Questions on 5 through 7. So I think there's a question on number 5, name line Q in 2 other ways. So what would one way be? OP and PO. What is the most, how many points do we need to name a line? 2. It is exactly 2. Now Q, since it's at one of the arrows, it's naming the line itself. It's not an actual point. So we would either use OP or PO. And that's it. That's all we would need to do for number 5. Any questions on 6 or 7? Any questions on number 6 or problem number 7? Because number 6 says name array AB, because it says AB on y'all's in 2 other ways. So we could say A, C, or A, D. Because it's asking for array AB in 2 other ways, it has to start at point A. How would we do number 7?
ZE. Yeah.
EZ or ZE, and we need the line segment symbol above it, and that is it.
So you do not have to put the dots at the end, right? Okay.
Questions on 8, 9, or 10? Huh?
Yes.
Okay, so 3 points that are collinear are going to be on the same line. So we're talking about J, B, and K. If we're talking about coplanar, we're going to talk about 3 points that remain on the same plane. So we need any points that are on the same plane. So J, B, K, and C would all technically be coplanar because they're all contained on the same plane. Same plane, coplanar. Collinear is same line. Now, if we want a point that is not coplanar to the point in question number 9, we're talking about the point that is not contained within the plane, and the only point that is not contained in the plane is point A.
Okay. Thank you.
Nope, just A. Any other questions on this here? Okay, so if we look at this here, so question number 11, name 2 pairs of opposite rays. So 2 pairs of opposite rays go in opposite directions. So what we're going to be talking about here is a M and AN is one pair of opposite rays. The other is going to be AP and AQ. These two here are going to be our sets of opposite rays because two opposite rays make a straight line. Any two pairs of opposite rays will make a straight line. Now the next one, find the length of AB. Well, the whole length of AC is 24. The distance from B to C is 13. So if I want to find the length from A to B, well, the length from A to B plus BC gives us the whole thing. So I could take 24 and subtract 13, and 24 minus 13 is? So AB is 11. Any other questions on 11 or 12? Yes.
Do we have to put AB equals 11 or we put 11 is the length?
I need some signification of what you're talking about, like what's your final answer. Any questions on number 13? We're good at finding CH. Find the length of JK, given J is a segment bisector. Since it's a segment bisector, it does what? It cuts it in half. So 2x plus 7 is going to equal 4x plus 3. And if I want to find the length, I just need to solve for the value of x and then plug it back in. Does it know the value of x? So when we do this here, we need to get x by itself. So the first thing I would do is to subtract 2x from both sides. This 2x minus 2x would give us 0, leaving
Because I mean, if you added 2x plus 4x.
2x plus 4x is,
6x.
but if I add 2x to both sides, here 2x plus 2x would give us 4x, and here I would get 6x. We would not have x's on one side. We need to get x's on one side of the equation. We have to use opposite equations because 2x minus 2x would give us 0x. Here, 4x minus 2x is x plus 3. So by subtracting 2x from both sides, we remove the x's from one side of the equation, and now we only have them on the right side. Now the next thing we need to do is to subtract 3 from both sides. 3 minus 3 is 0. 7 minus 3 is 4. And last but not least, we need 2. 2.
That's not good.
It's
Okay. So we found the value of x. Now what do we need to do next? Plug it back in. So we can use 2x plus 7. We're going to have 2 times 2 plus 7. 2 times 2 is? Plus 7 is 11. So the length from A to J is 11. The length from J to K is 11, because again, we said J is the segment bisector. It cuts it in half. And we already said that AJ is going to be the same as JK, so they should have the exact same distance. So the distance from J to K is going to be 11. Any other questions on this here? Any questions on number 15? Okay, because this here we would do the exact same thing as number 14, except DG is the whole thing. So we just need to make sure we're solving for what we are asked for. Question 16 through 18, find the midpoint of segment AB. So our midpoint formula is x1 plus x2 divided by 2, comma, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. Which one of these do we want to look at? $17. So again, when we solve for the midpoint, we put the two x values in to one and put the two y values in the other. So what are the two x values for these 2 points? So we can go on and add those together. Negative 7 plus 9 is? And 2 divided by 2 is? 1. We could have also put that in the calculator because we've done our fraction key, negative 9, or negative 7 plus 9 divided by 2, hit enter, and it would tell us that it's 1. What are our y values?
1, 4.
So we can do 1 plus 4, which is? And 5 divided by 2 is? 2.5. So the solution, our midpoint is 1 comma 2.5. Yes.
So you're just going to take 1. Okay.
Any other questions on 16 or 18? Either one that y'all need to see done. So we could have used 2.5 or 5/2. That will give us the exact same answer. Are we good with 16 and 18? Questions on 19, 20, or 21? Finding the other endpoint given one endpoint and the midpoint. Do we want to look at 19, 20, or 21?
20.
20. Which of those 2 points is the midpoint? 3, 6, because they tell us the midpoint is what? Midpoint M. So 3, 6 is the midpoint. Now, given our formula for the x values, what we just did is we plugged the 2 x values of the endpoints in, divided by 2, and we got the x value of the midpoint, yes? Well, what is the x value of the midpoint? 3. 3 is the x value of the midpoint, yes? So if I add the 2 endpoints x values together and divide by 2, I should get, what are the 2 x values? Well, negative 2, do we know what the other one is? So we call it x. So we can go on and solve for this here, and our first step is to multiply both sides by 2, because these 2's will, which leave us with negative 2 plus x is equal to?
Hey, we had the formulas on the board.
Nope. What can we do next? Add 2 to both sides. Because our negative 2 plus 2 is? And 6 plus 2 is? 8. So the x value of the endpoint is 8. Okay, well that got half of it. Now we need to find y. Now if we add the 2 y values, so the endpoints, the y values for the 2 endpoints together, divide by 2, we get what? 6, because it's the y value of the midpoint. So what are the endpoints that we know? 7, and we don't know the other one. Now what do we do next? We multiply both sides by 2, because these would cancel, leaving us with 7 plus y is equal to. And then what do we do next? Subtract 7 from both sides, which tells us y is equal to 5. So the other endpoint is the point 8 comma 5. Any other questions on this here? Do we need to see another example of 19 or 21? Which one? So if we look at 19, we're sticking back with the formula for the midpoint. So what is the x value of the endpoint given?
X value 4.
And the midpoint's x value is? And we don't know what the other one is. Now our first step is to do what? Multiply both sides by because those would cancel, telling us that we have 4 plus x is equal to
4 plus x would be 0.
and then we would subtract 4 from both sides, because 4 minus 4 is 0, telling us x is equal to negative 4. Now we'll do the same thing for y. So the y value that they gave us was? They didn't tell us what the other endpoint was, but they told us that this would equal, our first step would be 2. Multiply both sides by 2 because those would cancel, telling us 7 plus y is equal to subtract 7 from both sides, telling us y is equal to. So the other endpoint is negative 4 comma negative 7.
If we don't have this time period, we just
Test is tomorrow.
like
Test is tomorrow.
I'm stupid. Well,
Because this here is to answer any questions, not to cover every single item.
yeah, I know that. Yeah. I'm talking about like tomorrow.
Is the test.
I don't finish it in that time period.
You will have enough time to finish. Any other questions on this here? Yes, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Is there anywhere close to the
No.
site? Oh, okay, yeah.
Which one of the distance formula problems do we want to look at? 23. So when we talk about the distance formula, what we're going to do is plug in to our formula. So we would have the x value squared plus the y value subtracted from each other. So we're just plugging in for x and y. So we would plug in the x value, subtract them, and square them. We plug the y values in, subtract them, and square them. Well, what are the two x values for this here? So we'd say negative 2 minus 4 squared plus, what are the y values? So we'd have 1 minus 8. Type it into the calculator and you're done. We don't have to do any of this by hand. We have it set up. The calculator will do it. We can type into the calculator our square root parentheses negative 2 minus 4 close parentheses squared plus parentheses 1 minus 8 close parentheses squared. Hit enter and it would give you the answer. Now if we do this by hand, negative 2 minus 4 would be negative 6 squared. Plus 1 minus 8 squared would be negative 7 squared. Now negative 6 squared would be positive 36. Negative 7 squared would be positive 49. And 36 plus 49 is going to be 87. And I don't believe that there's any way to reduce it except down to a decimal. And that's it. That's all we'd have to do. Any questions on this here? Are you good with this here? Yes? Okay. 25 through 27, name the polygon based on the number of sides and determine if it's convex or concave.
Question, I'm gonna use the book.
No,
We can use this.
you can use your note sheet or the reference sheet.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Never mind. So
Yep, answer key on the back.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you said that last.
So which one of these do we want to look at? 25. So the first thing we need to, guys, first thing we need to do is count the number of sides. I'll put a mark to signify for myself where I'm starting. So I can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 would be? Because it has how many sides?
Concave.
Huh?
Not a gun. So it has
1,
9
2, 3,
sides.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
I knew that was not a gun. understand my question.
So what are you asking?
I don't understand what concave.
So what is a polygon concave?
Oh,
Guys.
I know what concave is.
What?
Like the sides come into like the middle.
If I extend a side, it goes through the shape. So
And
so this would be concave.
convex. None of the sides are going to the inside.
26 would be convex.
Or convex. And then hexagons.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So really all I need is this.
Any other questions on 25, 26, or 27? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Dodecagon. And this would be concave. 12. Huh? If we extend any of those sides and it goes into the shape, it is concave.
No, I'm talking about how you get the name.
How many sides does it have? So it is dodecagon. It has 12 sides.
I don't comprehend like how to remember them. So like if it has more than 10
Remember them?
sides.
Huh?
So if it has more than 10 sides.
No, this dodeca is 12. It has 12, so it's dodeca. Yes. Yes.
Very confusing.
Huh?
The words that they go into is very confusing.
All right, guys. Any other questions on this here? Questions on 28, 29, or 30?
Question. Back on the, do you know an easy way to like, memorize those? Yeah.
Flashcards? So 28, how would we name this angle? Angle ABC, angle CBA, angle or angle B, because if it is only one angle, we can name it by its vertex. And the vertex, if we're using 3 letters, is always in the middle. And we do need the angle marker. Any other questions on 29 or 30? Questions on 31 or 32? So 32, the whole angle is what? 67. So if I want to find the other one, we can take 67, subtract from it 40. So LMN is 40 degrees. Questions on this here? That's not 130. You're good. So we'll look at this here. Is there any questions on number 33? We're wanting to find the measure of angle AHK and the measure of angle FHA.
Does he do it the same way, like get rid of them X's and all that crap? We did it the same way as
Possibly, but what do we know about the whole angle? It's a straight line, so the measure of the angle is 180. So we do know that these two angles, 5x minus 18 plus 3x plus 42 is 180 degrees. So we're going to find the value of x and plug it back in. So we can combine like terms because 5x and 3x are on the same side of the equal sign. 5x plus 3x is negative 18 plus 42. plus 24, and you can type that into a calculator, that's fine. Then what do we need to do next? We need to get x by itself by subtracting 24 from both sides. These would cancel out, telling us 8x is equal to 150. Divide both sides by 8, and we get x is equal to 19.5. Any questions on this here and how we found the value of x? What do we need to do next? We need to plug it back in. So we could take the 5x minus 18, which would be 5 times and I believe this here is going to be 79.5. So the measure of FHA is 79.5. Guys, if we plug it into the other one, 3 times 19.5 plus 42, if we plug this all in, we will get 100.5 degrees. Questions on how we work this one here? Yes, sir. Yes. Yes, sir.
You use just the math.
Mm-hmm. Guys. Any questions on this here? Now, the answers do not look like the picture, but that is perfectly fine. As long as the math work that you did does work out, is correct, that's fine. I put the problems together after I draw the picture, so they don't always line up. Yep. So any other questions on 33 before we move on to 34 and 35? Okay. Questions on number 34? Are we good with problem number 34? Yes, except instead of equaling 180, it equals 91. And the same thing is true for 35, except instead of equaling 91 or 180, it equals 90. The two angles will add together to be 90. Even though that there is more than one answer that you're filling in, it's not really that many, because M in O is the same as O in M. They're the same angle. Yeah, you put the same thing. Yep. 36 and 37. So 36, name 2 pairs of vertical angles. 4 would be 1, but it wouldn't be 4 and 9. It'd be 4 and 2 would be vertical. What else? Those are 2 pairs of opposite rays would make 2 and 4. 7 and 6, yes. One last one. 5 and 8. 9 would have one if it wasn't for the fact that we have angles 2 and 3, because that one angle is split in half or split up. Those would not work. Name 2 pairs of linear pairs. Linear.
5 and 8.
7 and 8.
Oh, yeah.
Because what's special about a linear pair? They make a straight line. So it's
2 and 8.
2 and 8 would not.
What? 4 and 7.
Would not.
I don't understand.
Because it's 2 angles that make a straight.
What happened? That would be
Because if they were to work, because again, Linear pairs make a straight line, have a common vertex, and share a common side. They have to be adjacent. So we could also say 5 and 7, because we have 5 and 6. 8 and 6, and that would be it. So any ones that make a straight line. 2 and 9 would work as well, yes. If there are no other questions on that, let's look at 38 and 39. Supplementary means what? 180. Complement is? So if I know that angles 3 and 5 are supplementary, they add up to be 180. So 41 plus, so angle 5 plus angle 3 is equal to? 180. So if I want to find the other angle, we can take 180 and do what? So the measure of angle 3 is 139. Complementary angles add up to be 90. So we can do 90 minus 26, which is 64, would be the measure of angle 4. But again, those two angles add together to either be 90 or 180. Complementary angles are 90, supplementary angles are 180. Any other questions on this here?
Yeah, see y'all going right here.
No. Questions on 40, 41, or 42? So QS is an angle bisector. It means it cuts the angle in half. So if we look at this here, we're told that the whole angle is 122 degrees. If I want to find one of the two, we do what? We divide it by 2. So we take 122 and divide it by 2, which is 61 degrees. So each one of these angles would be 61 degrees because it cuts it in half. So angle PQS would be SQR is, and that's all we would need to do for this here. We're ready for the next one. So if we look at this here, we're told that it's an angle bisector and SQR is 47. Well, that means the other angle is 47. So PQS is 47 degrees. If we want to find PQR, we add those two angles together. So 47 and 47 would be 94 degrees because to find the sum, we add the two together. Any questions on this here? Questions on this one here? Now this is not, because they tell us that this is 9x plus 37, PQS, 9x plus 37, and the other one is 21x plus 1, because they actually filled it in for this here. But we know that this is an angle bisector, cut it in half, yes? So these two angles are what? What happened? It cut it in. So these two angles that are given are what? The same thing. They're equal to each other, yes? So what we could say is that 9x plus 37 is going to equal what? 21x plus 1. The two angles are the same. So if we say one of the measures is 9x plus 37 and the other is 21x plus 1, they are equal. So we can set them equal to each other, then solve for the value of x. What can we do first? We can subtract 9x from both sides. 9x minus 9x would be 0, leaving us with 37 is equal to 21 minus 9 would be 12x plus 1. What can we do next? We can Subtract 1 from both sides, which tells us 36 is equal to 12x. And then the last thing we can do is divide both sides by 12. And we get that the value of x is. But what do we have to do to finish this out? Yep. The last thing we need to do is plug it back in. So we can pick the 9x plus 37. So we could say 9 times 3 plus 37. Well, 9 times 3 is 27. Plus 37 is 64. So the measure of SQR is going to be 64. The measure of angle PQS is 64. And the measure of PQR is 128 because we add those two angles together. Any other questions on 40, 41, or 42? Okay. Let's look. Are there any questions on 43, 44, or 45? So if we look at, say, x in XP, in XP, we're talking about this angle here. What we can do is we can count along. So there's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. So the measure of x in XP is 70 degrees. Classify the angle. Would it be right, acute, or obtuse? Acute because it's less than 90. It's a right angle if it's equal to 90, and it's obtuse if the angle is greater than 90. Yes. 43? Yes. Any other questions on this here? Okay, perimeter and area will not be on the test. So are there any other questions on any other part of this review sheet? So it would be helpful to write down and make sure the distance formula, you do have it written down on your review sheet, as well as midpoint. Having both of those might be helpful to have on the review sheet, because you might also want to write the sides and number of sides, the name of those down, because there's nothing wrong with writing those down on the review sheet. Because again, you can have the review sheet on the test. You cannot use your notes or your book or anything else, but you can use the review sheet on the test. So on the test tomorrow, you can have a you can have a calculator, your review sheet, and something to write with. You cannot